What's up, everybody? On today's episode of Cactus Talk, we discuss how the Arizona Diamondbacks are locking up their explosive young core and how a recent trade might have put the Arizona Cardinals in an even better draft position than they were before. Let's get to it. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching Cactus Talk. My name is Zach. Got Noah here. We got a lot to talk about. Damn, it's been a lot that's been
Yes,
happening.
we do.
Guess we'll kick it off with the most important bit of news. The Diamondbacks agreed to an extension with their hottest young prospect, emphasis on the word hottest, Corbin Carroll, hotshot electric outfielder. They agreed to an 8-year contract that includes a club option for 2031. The deal guarantees him 111 million and would reach 134 if the option is exercised. There are also escalators in the pact for 29 to 31. What were your thoughts when? I mean, of course, it's obvious you want to shore up your franchise piece, but um, what do you have to say about this huge move for the Snakes?
Oh, I'm very excited about it. You and I have talked about our excitement for Corbin Carroll for a while. We've seen him play. You had the chance to meet him in person and see how he is as a person, and you thought he was just as awesome as a human being as he is as a player. And he's very talented, has a lot of speed. Definitely a cornerstone of the franchise, and I'm really glad they locked him up.
Yeah, no, for sure. And for anyone who hasn't seen Corbin Carroll yet, definitely, if you get the chance, buy a ticket, even if it's a nosebleed outfield bleacher ticket. The guy just makes baseball more fun to watch. A lot of people, a lot of analysts have mentioned that he can easily put himself in scoring position with one swing of the bat, which I mean that's no exaggeration either. So, I mean, props there. That's honestly the icing of the cake, in my opinion, for what I would say has been a pretty solid offseason for the Snakes. Um, Short up their bullpen. I think we have a really solid bullpen going into 2023. We got a lot of key pieces to kind of fill in the back end and the middle. And obviously, any Dbacks fan knows that was our biggest struggle last year, as it has been in the past. Other than that, we did pick up a few utility players. We picked up outfielder utility man Lourdes Gurriel Jr. We also picked up top catching prospect Gabriel Moreno in that same deal, sending Varsho to the Blue Jays. Let's see, we also picked up third baseman Evan Longoria, which we both had mentioned offline as wanting the Snakes to go after him. And yeah, we also picked up outfielder Kyle Lewis, who, if he's healthy, definitely is going to be, I feel like, a big piece. I feel like if we can get him some playing time in the lineup and he stays healthy, he's going to rake at Chase. So what's your take on those offseason pieces that we added?
Yeah, I mean, Longoria is just a solid player. He's definitely not the player he once was because he's getting up there in age, but he's still a very solid utility player. He will switch in and out of the lineup with Josh Rojas depending on the matchups. If they face a lefty, Longoria will probably end up playing third, and then Rojas could potentially sit out of the lineup depending on his matchup against a specific pitcher. And then honestly, the big trade that we made with Toronto, picking up, trading Dalton Varsho, and then picking up Gabriel Moreno and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I thought that was a fantastic trade. I thought we got a steal. And honestly, so far, I mean, I know that it's spring training, so we're going to take it with a grain of salt. But Gurriel's been hitting really well. Moreno's been hitting really well. We're going to see a lot of, we have a really good. I like our catchers right now. Carson Kelly's been having a good spring as well. Hopefully that can translate into the regular season. So we have that nice 1-2 punch at catcher. Gurriel is going to be pretty much a mainstay in the lineup, whether he's DH or he's going to be in the outfield. But he's also played some infield positions in his career, so he's a really nice utility option. And then, of course, the bullpen additions that we've had. Scott McGough has had a really good spring. Your boy Miguel Castro has had a really good spring. I believe Vargas has also had a really good spring. So I'm hopeful for the bullpen, but again, I'm never going to really be confident in that until I really see him in action.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm really happy with the moves that we made. Obviously, when Mike Hazen first came in, the priority was shoring up that farm system. So that's why there weren't any big swings. But now that we got that farm system in place, we're able to make some bigger swings for some players. So I'm very excited for those additions.
Right, right, and that's the crazy thing too is that a lot of D-backs fans I feel like are pulling for that big splash, going after like a top name free agent or top player in baseball. I feel like we don't really need to do that with the farm system that Hazen's put together. The lineup we have in place already. I know last year on paper was a bit of a rough year. It was definitely an increase as far as win total and a lot of positives coming out of last year. Um, I'm excited. This is honestly the most excited I've been in a while for the start of a D-back season. Of course, I definitely agree with what you said about the bullpen. How many times have we expected to have a solid bullpen and then it just kind of all goes to hell once the season starts? So
Too
yeah,
much.
no, I'm excited. I did do a bit of research. I was curious as far as what the projections would look like as far as the depth chart. So Fangraphs.com has the following projected lineup. So this one's not a surprise. Leading off, we have Corbin Carroll playing in left. Second, we have Marte playing second. Third, we have McCarthy playing right. Batting cleanup, we have Christian Walker at first. Batting fifth, we have starting third baseman Josh Rojas. Batting sixth, playing DH, we have Lourdes Gurriel Jr. At seventh, we have center fielder Alec Thomas. Batting eighth, we have starting catcher Carson Kelly, which all due respect to Carson, I don't see him starting very often, especially once Moreno starts to get some more majors time under his belt. And then rounding out the lineup at ninth, we have starting shortstop and Noah's favorite player, Nick Ahmed. How do you feel about that lineup? If that's
That's
what we
about
see.
That's honestly what I projected. I mean, you even asked me if I thought that Marte or Carroll would be leading off. I'm like, that's just no question that it's going to be Corbin Carroll. Like, you have to have the fastest guy on your team, leading off because, like you said, any one swing in the bat potentially puts him in scoring position with that speed. So I think it's really solid. And I do agree with you in the aspect of once Gabriel Marino gets more major league time on his belt, that we may end up seeing more of Marino than we will see Carson Kelly. But we will see a decent mix of both players going
I think
into the
so too,
season.
for sure. So as far as the projected bench, we have Gabriel Moreno, Evan Longoria, Geraldo Perdomo, and Kyle Lewis. About what you expected as far as the bench?
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I expected it to be. Um, Yeah, there's really not much to say. I mean, do we have so they do they have Pavin Smith starting the league off in the minors? Is that what's going on?
So according to Fangraphs, yes. He's having a decent spring though. I wouldn't be shocked if he's on the majors. Just because he's starting to outplay Lewis from what I'm seeing and hearing coming out of Salt River. So I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Pavin's in there instead of Lewis once we get to opening day. As far as the starting rotation, not too much of a surprise there. We have Gallon, Kelly, Mad Bum, Davies, and then Ryan Nelson. The only one I would see maybe switching out is possibly Nelson for maybe
Yep.
Dre Jameson, but I don't know.
Brandon
I
Pfaadt's in the mix too.
Yeah, for sure. Fat's been
Yeah.
looking really good coming out of
We
spring,
have
so
what I read today is that that fifth spot is definitely still up in the air. They've all had a very interesting spring so far. They haven't really been consistent. So we're gonna have to see how the rest of this month plays out and how these guys ultimately perform to determine who gets that fifth starter role. But again, it's gonna be between Jameson, Ryan Nelson, and Brandon Pfaadt.
yeah, for sure. Last but not least, the projected bullpen. So it doesn't really say on Fangraphs who specifically is going to be the closer. It just kind of says their role or what they're expected to be, like generally speaking. For example, they have like five people that could be a closer. So we have Andrew Chafin, Kevin Ginkle, Joe Manaply, Mark Melanson, Miguel Castro, Scott McGow. Um, correct me if I'm wrong on that pronunciation. I think it's McGow. Kyle Nelson, and then Corbin Martin.
No Familia?
No Familia as far as this projection. Again, just a projection
Oh.
though. I'd be shocked if Familia wasn't in there.
Yeah, let me take a look. He has a 1.93 ERA this spring. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I'd be absolutely shocked if he wasn't in there. I mean, we have a few guys who can close. Ideally, I would like to see either Melanson or Familia start in that closer role because Familia does have that experience, even though the past couple of years have not been really kind to him. But I think he has strong potential to have a nice bounce back year. Corbin Martin in the bullpen role, transitioning from a starter, I think is going to be really good for him. I'm pretty excited to see what he brings to the bullpen. We already know Mantiply was arguably our best bullpen pitcher last year. Chafin should be solid when healthy. McGow's had a really good spring. I don't think he's given up anything. Let me double check. No, he has zeros across the board on that ERA. So yeah, it's been really nice. But again, it is spring training. Take it with a grain of salt. But so far, it does look good, and I'm holding my breath on that bullpen, but I'm cautiously optimistic about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. If you had to predict going into opening day, going into 2023, who would you plug in as your consistent 7, 8, and ninth inning guys in the bullpen? Just call it right off the bat.
Mantiply, Familia, and Melanson.
In that order?
Oh, in that order? Oh.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, Mantiply, Familia, Melanson. I think Melanson has to have a bounce back year because, we got him last year. You and I both were really excited about it because he led the league in saves in the previous year, but he just,
Right.
he hit the wall. But I expect him to have a bounce back year. But again, in that order, I would predict those three.
I think so. I think I agree. Um, yeah, no, I'm I'm so scared for Melanson to be closing again. Just from last year, I got some
But
PTSD.
again, if he ends up struggling, we can just switch to Familia in that spot. So, but we have other guys who can end up plugging into those 79 roles as well. So I'm pretty excited to see what ends up happening.
Yeah, and that's the best part about the offseason acquisitions. Like you said, if Melanson starts struggling, we have pieces. We have Familia, we have Manaply, we have McGow, Chafin. It has shown he's been serviceable. So yeah, I think we'll be okay there. What else do you have to say about the D-backs offseason before we jump into the meat and potatoes?
Yeah, obviously we didn't make any huge swings for any big name players, but that's not the D-backs forte. I think that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah,
We're kind of just trying to, we got some solid players. We're probably going to end up seeing where we're at towards the trade deadline. If we're in a good position to continue being competitive and push for a playoff spot, then it's possible we'll make a big swing at that point. Again, we talked about some guys that could potentially be on the move in the offseason in Alec Thomas and Jake McCarthy. I
right.
think that could continue to remain the same because they're very talented players, and so a lot of teams might have interest in those guys, and then we can make a big swing for a big name. So, no, I'm excited for where we're going to be. We made a pretty drastic improvement as far as our win total last year. Made quite a few changes this year, so crossing my fingers, and I'm pretty excited for this season.
Speaking of some excitement, and this little behind the scenes, pulling back the curtain a little bit. This episode was planned yesterday, so we had no idea when we were talking about jumping on yesterday that there was going to be any sort of NFL trade news today to speak of. For those who haven't heard, cornerback Jalen Ramsey has been traded from the Los Angeles Rams to the Miami Dolphins. He was traded for a 2023 third round pick and tight end Hunter Long, who I haven't heard that name. I'm assuming he's like a third string tight end. Unanimously, from what I've seen, people are crapping on this trade. Comments like "That's it, that's all it took," stuff like that. What did you think? What do you think about Ramsey going to the Dolphins? I mean, that makes an already solid defense even better. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I definitely expected Ramsey to get moved. He was a name that was talked about as a player who could be on the trading block. So the move doesn't surprise me. And it kind of just goes to show that like the Rams won a Super Bowl, with Matthew Stafford, great, but they made quite a few big swings as far as trading away first round draft capital for these players. If I'm not mistaken, they traded a first round draft pick to get Jalen Ramsey in the first place, and then they trade him for a third and a tight end. So that just kind of goes to show that move. They felt that move didn't really pay off, and honestly, I don't know where the Rams are going to go after this. But again, the move doesn't surprise me, but like, you give up that first round draft capital and then you end up trading him for a third and tight end. I don't know.
yeah. What does that say about how you feel about the player?
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor Rams. They've fallen so far so fast, but a team that is on the rise, and then in the NFC West, Arizona Cardinals. Excuse me. A lot of people might not say they're on the rise with the Kyler Murray injury, but I see us on an upwards trajectory. We hired a new GM, Monti Ossenfort. We hired new head coach Jonathan Gannon. We essentially completely new coaching staff. I'm excited for the new regime. We've got a third overall draft pick. We've got quite a few needs, but I mean, a lot of methods as far as how to get them taken care of. And with the trade for the Panthers to move up to the top pick in the draft, I feel like that opens up a lot more options for the Cardinals come draft day, or going into draft day rather. So what? Let's get into it. What do you think the possibilities are here? What do you think the Cardinals are going to do with that pick? Do you think they're going to stay? Are they going to trade down? Um, Will Anderson, what do you think?
So I'm gonna start off with that Panthers Bears trade. Obviously, it rocked the entire NFL world. Nobody really expected that. I think the
Hmm.
Bears ended up getting way too much for that number one pick. The Panthers just traded the farm, and that's not a good
Heist.
trade for the Panthers perspective. But if you're a Bears fan, you're excited. Um, so, but the impact of that trade is that now the Cardinals, if they want Will Anderson, there's nobody that's going to get in their way of getting him. So, and that's a very difficult player to pass up. That's a really good, talented linebacker that they can end up taking. So I think it's going to be really hard to pass up on him. But at the end of the day, you do need to explore the option of trading back and then really see what you can get, because now the first two, the Panthers and the Bears are going to end up taking a quarterback 1 and 2. Now, if
Mm.
any team values a quarterback a little bit high, the Cardinals are the first team they have to call. So they definitely have to explore those options for teams that want to trade up with, to get a quarterback. Teams like the Colts potentially, even though they're a spot behind them. Teams like the Falcons. And yeah, we definitely have to explore that possibility. One option that I heard about that could be a possibility is them trading back one spot to the Colts, because you can sit there and receive a bunch of offers from the other teams, and then you talk to the Colts, say, hey, how badly do you want to pick who you want to take at number 3, and then kind of just gauge to see how desperate they are to make that move. Because if we can trade back one spot and then get some more draft pieces in the mix, and still get Will Anderson, I think that's arguably the best case scenario that we can do.
Agreed.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. I wouldn't be shocked if we stayed at number 3 and took Will Anderson. I wouldn't be shocked if we traded back. There's just so many possibilities that open up after that trade.
Yeah, no, for sure. What do you think as far as offseason acquisitions? I feel like we have a couple more moves left in the tank. I think we're still going to upgrade it at backup quarterback. At least have a piece that can right the ship until Kyler gets back. Do you think we're going to stick with the mobile type backup QB, or do you think we're going to go more traditional if we sign
I
a
think we're
backup?
gonna No, we're 100% going to sign a backup. I don't think that we are overly confident in McCoy's ability to keep the ship level until Kyler Murray returns. The good news from the Kyler Murray aspect that we've heard most recently is that he is ahead of schedule in his recovery, and
Mm,
that he could potentially end up returning towards the earlier parts of the season rather than missing. I think what the original projection was, like, what, 8 weeks,
something
eight
like
nine
that.
weeks.
Yeah.
So that's definitely good news. Hopefully, he continue to trend in the right direction. But I think that we'll just stick with a stable quarterback. Some quarterback names that I saw were like Jacoby Brissett is going to be probably the top on that list because he does have that history with our new offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing.
Mm,
Teddy Bridgewater is another name that I saw mentioned. Yeah, I do see us doing that. I think we have a couple of holes we need to fill on the offensive line. Um, Outside of that, I mean, we're gonna need a receiver because we're probably gonna end up trading DeAndre Hopkins.
mm.
So, and then we need a little bit of help on the defensive side. But it really just depends on, from the new regime's perspective, Jonathan Gannon and Monti Ossenfort, is how confident that they will be able to be a good competitive team this year. And if they feel that's the case, then they're going to make some pretty aggressive swings in free agency and the trade market. So, we'll see. But yeah, we definitely have some holes we need to fill, and we can definitely fill those holes by trading back in the draft. So it's going to be interesting to see. But obviously, it's hard to really have high expectations with the Kyler Murray injury.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And another name on the defensive side we should look out for, in my opinion, Darius Slay. Obviously, we need some help at corner. You said he does have a relationship with our new defensive coordinator, so I
No,
would keep.
he was on the defense with Jonathan Gannon. So,
Oh,
and we
that's it.
also
That's what it
hired
was.
we hired Nick Rallis, the Eagles linebackers coach, as defensive coordinator. So, a lot of
There's
possibilities as
connections.
far as taking some Eagles players away. Darius Slay is one of them. James Bradbury was another name mentioned. So, I do agree that depending on the amount of draft capital that you'd have to give up for Darius Slay, that's a player to look out for to pick up.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I mean, things are looking on the up and up for Arizona sports. Finally, Suns had a bit of a scuffle last night, but we'll get more into that later this week when we hopefully have a special guest on. But we shall see. I'm not going to reveal that until it's set in stone because
Yep.
I'm more than a little stitious. So what do you tie a bow on it? You got any closing thoughts? D-backs, how awesome Corbin Carroll is.
I
Cardinals.
don't have any. Yeah, I don't have any closing thoughts on the Diamondbacks. The Cardinals. I am very excited for the new regime that's in place now, because a lot of things can be said about the culture and the environment surrounding the Arizona Cardinals under Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury. Um, a lot of people are pointing fingers. Um, but at the end of the day, I just think it wasn't a good environment. It was not a good culture. Now that's a complete change with Jonathan Gannon and Monti Ossenfort in place. So I'm
Mhm.
very excited to see what they bring to the table, and just ultimately they need to start holding our players accountable. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love the fact that we have that culture change. I feel like it's the whole, you don't want we need a coach, not a best friend, not a homie. And I think that's what we're gonna get with Jonathan Gannon. So I'm excited too for the regime change. Obviously, being a baseball guy, I'm super stoked about the D-backs. I feel like it's going to be a really, really fun season. And I do feel like the NL West is going to be wide open this year. I don't know. Something's just telling me um, it's going to be super, super competitive. But other
I
than that,
agree. Really quick.
yeah,
I think I do have my predictions on the NL West. Um, it is hard to go against the Dodgers as far as winning the division just because of their history. But I think they lost a lot this offseason and the Padres gained a lot. So
yeah,
I'm going to make a bold prediction that the Padres end up winning the NL West. The Dodgers finish second. The D-backs finished third. The Giants finished fourth, and the Rockies finished fifth.
Dang. So D-backs finished third, huh?
I think so. And
I don't
hopefully
disagree.
we can get a wild card spot too.
I think we're definitely going to be in the mix for a wild card spot. We were for most of last year, oddly enough, until the latter parts. But yeah, no, it's going to be a fun time. Other than that, this will do on this episode of Cactus Talk. Thanks for everybody watching. Of course, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks to everyone watching on YouTube and Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We'll have another episode on Wednesday, whether we have a surprise guest or not. We're going to talk some Phoenix Suns basketball. So again, thanks for watching. Everybody have a great rest of your day.